All right, let's talk energy independence.
Yes.
I know you're a big proponent of it. If you become the senator of the state of Florida or governor, what would you propose to the American people or the people of Florida as far as arguing for energy independence? I mean, what can we do?
Well, I think we need to do two things. There's a short-term and a long-term strategy. And the short-term is to basically make sure that all of our domestic sources that are available to us are being fully utilized, and not to do anything to raise the price of energy in the short term. In the long term, we need to look at energy independence as an emerging industry, a place where Americans can make billions of dollars for themselves and for their companies by developing technologically the new sources of energy. But here's the problem. If your energy independence is a goal that everyone shares, but if you're going to reach that goal through government mandates, and then that requires us to use our existing technology, which ultimately translates to an increase in costs. If, on the other hand, you reach energy independence through advances in technology, then not only will your costs be manageable or lower, but you'll actually create wealth and opportunity as well as achieving energy independence.
I've got a question for you. You're on record saying that you're all for offshore drilling,
yes,
as long as it's safe for the environment.
Yes.
That being said,
and it is, and the technology exists to do that. We're doing it now.
I'm sure we're our country. If anyone can do it, we can do it. But there's a quote here you gave Miami Herald. Said, for anyone who represents that someone drilling off the coast of Florida is going to lower gas prices here or anywhere in the country is disingenuous and a flawed argument. Oil drilling could take 10 years before any oil is pulled out of the ground, and there's no large number of leases held. There are a large number of leases held by oil companies that are not being exploited. We can't say we need more until we've exploited those. Well, I kind of disagree because as far as the gas prices go, because President George W. Bush, in one day, he announced that we were going to lift the ban on oil drilling. Price went down. It was purely speculation.
Right.
But who's to say that on news of another announcement like that or a commencement of drilling that the price won't go down?
First, the most important thing you can have in politics is credibility. And nothing hurts your credibility more than when you tell people that if you do this, this will immediately happen, and then it doesn't. And that's how I feel about the offshore drilling. We should fully use all of the natural resources of this country to help this country. But we can't go around telling people, if we announce tomorrow we're going to start oil drilling, within a week you're going to see it reflected permanently at the gas pump. Because what will happen is within a week or two it won't, and then people will stop believing us. So that's what I tried to say with that statement. Yes, drill. Yes, do it safely. But don't tell people that all of a sudden it'll lower our gas prices, because you'll lose credibility and then you won't be able to go back and advocate for the things you believe in later.
So you stand by your statement?
I do.
Okay. This is a touchy subject for me. National security. I'm a big hawk on national security. Personally, I think that national security trumps anything, because without national security, we're going to be afraid to spend, afraid to travel. It's going to hurt the economy. That being said, do you believe that we should have a strong and aggressive national security policy?
Sure. I think that you're right about when you say it's the underpinning of everything we do. Look, let me say this. The world is a safer place when America is strong. I believe that. We are not a nation that conquers land. We have no interest in taking over other people's countries or subjugating people to our rule. In fact, almost always when Americans have gone and shed their blood on foreign battlefields, it's been for the freedoms of other people. It's not been for their resources, it's not been for their land, it's not been for the power. When we go to war, it's largely been to free other people and to protect our national interests as a result. And so I think the world is a safer place when America is strong. I also think we make a grave mistake if we come to believe that somehow the world today is any safer than it was 10 or 15 years ago. It's actually a more dangerous place. And this is as dangerous as the world has been since the Cold War, and in many respects more dangerous, because the Cold War had a set of rules that you understood. The Russians didn't, and the Soviets didn't want to die. I mean, they wanted to dominate the world, but they didn't want to die doing it. Our opponents now, unfortunately our enemies, have no qualms about dying for their cause. In fact, they see it as an honor. And number two, they're not nation states that we're opposing anymore. It's these loosely knit group of people all over the world that could strike our interest at any time.
Well, you brought up the fact that you brought up the Cold War, and let me move into that question. Obviously, Russia's a big threat now. They're not the old Soviet Union, but they have a big presence now in Central and South America, and now recently they're trying to move into Cuba in some way or form. You being a Cuban American, I'm sure you have something to say about this.
Yeah, I don't think we should tolerate the Russian military expansion into the Western Hemisphere at all. Just like we wouldn't do in the Cold War, we shouldn't do that now. Now, if they want to economically compete with us in Latin America and the Western Hemisphere, that's valid. In the global economy, that's fine. But to allow them to play strategic, a lot of this is just for show. I mean, the Russian economy is in shambles, and they know that. And I doubt seriously they can fund some of their dreams. That being said, we should take their threats seriously. And I think having Russian military bases and that could pose a threat to American national security, whether it's based in Venezuela or Cuba, is unacceptable. Unacceptable.
Like I said, I believe in a strong national security policy, but also I believe in that it also starts at our borders. Do you agree?
I do. I think, in fact, immigration is not just a legal issue in this country, it's a national security issue. We're living in an era where one guy with a backpack and a nuclear device could ruin the life of millions or end the life of millions of Americans. So I do believe that immigration at the borders is a national security and public safety issue.
Now, mind you, we all know that we have a very porous border, and they're constructing a fence as we speak. I believe it's 700 feet long. Oh, 700 miles long.
Yeah.
Would you be against increasing that fence?
No, I wouldn't. I just don't. But I also, with the caveat that it's not going to solve the problem by itself. It's important that we do it. We need to do it right. But it alone won't solve the problem because it doesn't take care of the other issue, which is, first of all, people always find a way around fences, and so you have to have border security on top of the fence. The second part of it is that a significant number of illegal aliens in this country entered legally. They came here with visas that allow them to enter, and they overstay the visas. And that's, for example, where I live in Miami, that's primarily the way illegal aliens get into Miami, is they come here legally on visas that allow them to be here, and then the visa expires and they don't go home. We have to figure out a strategy on how to solve that as well.
Okay. As we all know, we got our clocks cleaned this past November. We pretty much got it handed to us. Republicans now are starting to galvanize around conservative principles and values. And they feel that a lot of our Republican leaders, elected officials, have let us down. A lot of them have become what they would call rhino Republicans, Republicans in name, or have leaned more to the left. Our governor, Charlie Crist, I'm sure you know him very well. I think he delivered the biggest slap in the face to Republicans in the state of Florida because we're reeling after a defeat by President Barack Obama. And a lot of people are very concerned with his socialist views. And then obviously we have this porculus package coming up, and Governor Crist pretty much endorsed it. He came out openly to ask for funds and stood shoulder to shoulder with President Barack Obama, which I think, like I said, insulted a lot of Republicans, a lot of people that believed in Governor Crist, and pretty much, in other words, how I feel, he's, like I said, condoning this socialist view. If you were in the governor's shoes, whether it be as a governor or as a state senator, would you put yourself in that situation? Would you stand side by side with President Barack Obama on this issue?
No, on this issue, no. I would stand side by side with him on issues that I agreed with, and I would stand side by side with him on issues that are good for our country, but I wouldn't stand on issues that I disagreed with just to get on camera.
Issues that would pertain to conservative principles and values.
No, I mean, look,
you're not going to compromise any of those.
The stimulus package, or the so-called stimulus package, the spendulous, whatever people want to call it, but that bill that passed is prototypical of the direction that this country's headed under this administration. And that is this notion that the only way out of our economic problems is through a massive, expensive, debt-ridden expansion of government, which I just disagree with that because it's never worked and it's not going to work. In fact, the only thing it will achieve beyond stimulating our debt is fundamentally change the nature of our economy. It will, in essence, allow the government to increasingly pick the winners and losers in our economy, which means that there will be less entrepreneurship, which means there will be less stories like yours and mine, and that's not something I want to see happen in our country. That bill violated the three basic principles that I believe in. Number one, don't spend money you don't have, because that's what got us into this mess to begin with. Number two, the money the government does have should be spent wisely and on things that will stimulate the economy, things like education. And number three, cut taxes that stimulate job creation, like the capital gains tax, like the corporate tax rate, like everybody's personal tax rate we could do as well.
Even sales tax.
What do you mean, in Florida?
In Florida.
Cutting the sales tax?
Yeah.
That'd be great. I don't think they're going to do that, but I think that they certainly shouldn't raise it.